American South, he's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe! G.I. Joe!
Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to Friday Night Game Night. Welcome to the tail end of week 3 of Yojo June. There was a lot that happened this week. A lot of cool stuff and a lot of disappointments were to be had as well. But we are not talking about that tonight. We will be talking about that on Sunday for Sunday Show and Tell. Tonight, for Friday Night Game Night, I thought we would try something a little bit different. I've spoken about Renegade Games' G.I. Joe role-playing game before, but some of you may not be familiar with it, may be wondering what it's like, what it's about, what the rules are like. So I thought tonight we would do something different and roll up a character. But not just any character, we will be rolling up Hard Deck. And if you're new to the show and you don't know who Hard Deck is, Hard Deck was basically me in the vintage line. See, back in the 80s when they came out with the Steel Brigade, that was basically your insert character. You had a little flyer card that you filled out. You wrote in there what you wanted your code name to be, what you wanted your M.A.R.S. to be, what branch of the military you came from, what kind of training you had. It was great. Like, for a kid, getting to actually have an insert character to actually be part of the G.I. Joe team and being like, this is me, that was fantastic. That is also why I was very particular about Hard Deck's pants, and I did the leg swap on him, because I wanted it to look more like the figure that I had as a kid, and the figure that I had as a kid had Airborne's legs, and the legs that the Steel Brigade or the Steel Corps figure came with, those are some of my most hated legs in the line. So we are going to be basically creating a character in the G.I. Joe RPG by the rules and recreating Hard Deck in RPG form based off of how I had filled out that file card back in the 80s. Now, if you see over there, I think it is, if you're watching the video, if you look over there, you should see the PDF of the character sheet. So we will be filling the character sheet out as we're doing this, or maybe it's over there. Either way, I've covered my bases. It's either over there or over there. The more I think about it, it's over there. But we have our character sheet here, and we're going to be filling all of that out as we're making the character, so you can see the effect the rules have on the character, basically, like how each choice affects the build. I'm very excited about this because this is really the first character that I've really built out for this game. I've had this game for a while. I've been reading up on the rules. I haven't actually had a chance to play the game yet, which really bums me out. So this is exciting for me on multiple levels. Not only am I making me, but I'm getting to actually use this. And there will be a link to this in the description below, along with the pre-order for the new one that they came out with, Hawk's Personnel Files, which I'm really excited about because that has all of the original Joes statted out in it. This book does not actually have any of the Joes statted. You have little write-ups on each character, little paragraph boxes, sort of like the back of the file cards from the old figures for each Joe character, but the only one you really have stats for in here are Cobra, like Cobra Commander, Mindbender, Baroness, Destro, Zartan. You have generic Cobra Troopers, generic Crimson Guardsmen, just because you need bad guys to fight, but none of the Joes are actually statted out. So our journey is going to begin on page 35. And step 1 is your character concept. And I'm not going to go over the whole page that's written here on character concept, because if you played an RPG, a pen and paper RPG before, you pretty much understand the basic creation of character concept when you're creating a character. Not only that, we already know what the character concept is going to be. It's going to be me in G.I. Joe form from 1986 when I filled this out as a kid. So let's move on to step 2. And step 2 is set starting essences. And the essences are really the bulk, the core of your character. It's like their stats. That we have 4: strength, speed, smarts, and social. So, in the G.I. Joe role-playing game, a character's core abilities are called essences and are broken down into 4 categories: strength, bodily power, and endurance, important for renegades and rangers. Speed, agility, balance, and reflexes, important for commandos and infantry. Smarts, awareness, mental acuity, intuition, and analysis, important for technicians. And social, confidence, poise, charisma, and leadership, important for officers and vagabonds. So when I created Hard Deck back in the 80s, two things influenced this. One, my old man served in the Air Force in Nam, and two, I had just seen Top Gun, and I really liked the Sky Striker. So Hard Deck, in case you couldn't tell by his code name, was a Sky Striker pilot. He was also an officer. When I made him, I picked his branch of the military to be Air Force, like I said, because of my old man. But I also made his rank Lieutenant Commander just because I thought that sounded awesome. Well, as fate would have it, and I did not know this as a child, there is no rank of Lieutenant Commander in the Air Force. He would actually be a major by comparable rank, which is actually one rank up from Ace. I'm good with that. So if we go over to our PDF over here, right where his code name is where we're going to start. Now there's no room for rank on here, which I kind of get why. Otherwise people would just be giving themselves any rank, as I'm about to do. So we're just going to put rank in the name section here and just go Major Hard Deck. Let the jokes begin. So there we go. Also, we're going to fill out level 1 because that's what he is. We're just going to start him at level 1. And that's all we're going to fill out for now. Because things like origin, role, focus, those things right there, especially things like origin, where in other RPGs, sometimes it's just fluff. It's just something that you come up with and write in just to give your character some like background color. While that is true in G.I. Joe, your origin also affects your stats and bonuses and perks and things like that. So we get to pick that as well and see how our origin affects our character. So step 2, starting essences. When you create your character, you will have 12 essence points to spend between the 4 essence scores of strength, speed, smarts, and social. Each level gained in an essence gives you a skill point to be invested in that essence's skill. The points you gain in each essence at the beginning can be put into any skill in their category, giving you freedom to figure out your character's starting point. So if you look at the essences, like strength right here, these are the skills that are associated with strength. Athletics, brawn, conditioning, intimidation, and might. Speed has acrobatics, driving, which is also piloting, so that's going to be a big one. Finesse, infiltration, initiative, and targeting, which is handheld weapons as well, handheld projectile weapons as well as vehicle weapon systems. Smarts, which is alertness, culture, science, survival, and technology. And then social, which is animal handling, deception, performance, persuasion, and streetwise. So the pilot, speed is going to be a big aspect of it. But the leader, the officer role, social, is also going to be a big asset. So we start with 12. So right across the board, that gives us 3, 3, 3, and 3. So we can start with an even base of 3 right there. Now he's going to be in the cockpit of a Sky Striker. He's not a weakling, but strength isn't going to be a big factor. So we're going to take 1 point out of strength and we're going to put it into speed. So we have 4 points in speed. Same thing with smarts. He's no dummy, but the social, because of being an officer, is going to be take priority. So we'll take smarts down to 2 and we'll put social at 4. So those are our starting essence points. Below here, you can also see we have toughness, evasion, willpower, and cleverness. Starts with a base of 10. Then we add our essence points, which is 2 for that, 4 for that, 2 for that, and then 4 for that. So right now, toughness is 12, evasion is 14, willpower is 12, and cleverness is 14. These will more than likely be adjusted as the essences change, and also if there are perks and maybe like bonuses and armor and things like that, which armor I doubt he's going to have because he's a pilot. His armor is his Sky Striker. So looking at strength right here, let's go to our skill section and talking about these strength skills. The first one we have is athletics, incorporating strength and stamina to move, such as with climbing, jumping, sprinting, swimming in most sports. Not really something you need in the cockpit of a Sky Striker. We also have brawn. The skill is the measure of your prolonged physicality. Unlike might, which is a burst of strength, brawn dictates a general and constant level of physical prowess. This skill also determines how much weight a character can carry, drag, and endure. Once again, he's not carrying the Sky Striker, so that's not really necessary. Then we have conditioning, getting tough through physical training, as well as learning how to take a hit and the safest way to recover for each skill taken. And for each skill level taken in this skill, you gain 1 additional health. So that, I think, by default is going to be what I put most of my strength points into. And then we have intimidation, wielding physical potential as a physical weapon, such as threats, shouting, and implying harm. Wielding physical potential as a psychological weapon, such as threats, shouting, and implying harm. You're not going to be really shouting at anybody in the cockpit of a Sky Striker. And then we have might. When a character needs to use raw power in combat, might is the skill in question. Brawlers, boxers, and wrestlers use this skill in close combat, as do heavy and blunt weapons like clubs, rifle butts, and hammers. Once again, not something he really needs in the cockpit, especially at first level. So we're going to take our 2 strength points right here, and we're just going to go dink and dink. And now we have +2 for health. So that's going to be our first one that we fill out, is 2 HP. Nope, they're not hit points. So just go 2 for the health. I'm used to hit points. So that takes care of our strength for now. Then we go to speed, and speed is one of those ones that's going to play into... I'm sorry, it's the middle of the day and the sun is set. It's like really shining through right now. So speed is one of those ones that we're going to want to pay attention to. I am speed. The first one, acrobatics. Balance across a high wire, carefully moving around a laser grid and trap, and nimbly using manual dexterity to pick a pocket are all uses of acrobatics. Not going to be picking too many pockets in a cockpit. But this next one, driving. From cars to tanks, speedboats to submarines, and prop planes to Sky Strikers, drive is the skill for getting yourself from point A to point B in a vehicle, including maneuvering around hazards, winning dogfights, and escaping chases. Handling animal below is the skill for riding animals. Now, I'm definitely going to be taking some points in driving, so let's explain what this is. My plan is to take 2 points in driving, but what I think I'm going to do right off the bat is go D2. Now what this does is whenever you roll a skill check, your base is a D20, okay? And each of a skill point raises the additional die that you roll. So if you don't have any points in a skill and you want to attempt that skill, you can try it basically untrained, where you just roll a D20. However, because I have 1 rank in the skill of driving right now, it would be D20 plus a D2, flip a coin. Okay, so the higher the die, the better your chances are of succeeding at your skill check. So right now, we've used one of our 4 skill points right there for driving to take it up to D2. We're going to use another one that takes it up to D4. So now we've used 2 of our 4. Now, right here, you can see specializations. Most skills, you can see conditioning doesn't, and I think that's the only one that doesn't. Oh no, and initiative. Conditioning and initiative doesn't have specializations. So what specializations do is that, first of all, whenever you make a skill check in something that you have a specialization, it bumps it up by 1 die. So like I have D4 for driving. However, what if I take a specialization, my specialization checks would be made as a D6, plus there's other bonuses that specializations can do. Let me find that section right here. Gaining skills and specializations, blah, da, 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 da. Okay, Learn a new specialization. You choose a skill in which you possess at least D2 rank and assign a specialization to that skill. Skills can have multiple specializations, and many skills function even more efficiently with multiple overlapping specializations. Specializations can be anything fitting for the character, but there are several examples listed in the skill descriptions later in this chapter. Further defining what a character is especially good at, most skills have specializations. These show a particular area of expertise with that skill and allow the character to roll more dice when their specialization comes into play. Specializations are available for most skills and are open-ended enough that are open-ended enough through this chapter, let me try that again, are open-ended enough, though this chapter suggests a few for each skill that may come into play more often. Skill specializations in vehicle and threat stat blocks are indicated with an asterisk, such as acrobatics, gymnastics, plus D6. See using skills section later in this chapter to see how specializations modify a character's skills. Which we jump over to page 126, rolling with a specialization. D20 plus highest result of all skill dice from your modifier level down the dice ladder equals skill test result. If a skill test applies to a character specialization, you roll not only your modified after dice shifts skill die, but all of the dice types descending the dice ladder described under gaining skills and specializations earlier in this chapter as well, choosing the highest numerical result on any of these dice. So basically, you would get to roll. So does that, let me go back to this. Okay, so you would actually roll D20 plus D2 plus D4, and you would get to pick the highest result right there. So that's actually cool. I thought it just bumped your die up one. For example, Scarlet is disguised at a gala event where she suspects Cobra agents are going to try to blackmail politicians. Scarlet has a deception of D10 with disguise as her specialization in the skill. She rolls a D20 and receives 15. She also rolls D10, D8, D6, D4, and a D2, the descending ladder from her skill level due to her specialization, receiving a 3, a 7, a 6, a 2, and a 2. She chooses the D8's roll of 7 instead of the D10's roll of 3 to add to her 15 on the D20. So it basically just gives you a better chance of getting a higher test result. So that's very cool. Now, the specializations for driving are, as you can guess, in the book right off the bat, are air, land, and sea. With him being a pilot, we are obviously going to go straight to air. So there's our specialization, and we're just going to knock that right there. So that actually takes a skill point as well. So I've just used 3 skill points right here in driving. Now, as we get down to as we come down, finesse, the counterpoint to might. Finesse covers fast or steady application of bodily dexterity and agility, as well as a steady action. Don't need that. Infiltration, remaining hidden, moving undetected, and evading capture are all the hallmarks of the infiltration skill. Don't need that. Initiative, fine-tuned reflexes, a danger sense, and situational awareness are all examples of the initiative skill. Initiative is rolled at the beginning of a conflict to determine turn order. You may take up to 6 levels in the skill, progressing from D2 to D12. As with other skills, this skill does not have specializations. So initiative could be a big one to take, but I think the one that I'm going to focus on is targeting. Firing ranged weapons while judging for distance, arcs, wind drag, and other factors is what targeting is all about. This is the skill when used with ranged attacks, can also be used to judge distances, compare lines of fire, etc. And vehicle is a example of a specialization, so like vehicle weapon systems. So once I get more ranks in targeting, I can do like the Sky Striker weapon systems right there. So we only have 1 point left, but we're going to put D2 into targeting. So there are our 4 points for speed. Going over to smarts, we have alertness, perceiving the world around you, including threats, clues, and opportunities, and deciphering them into useful information are all uses of alertness. And this also includes something called situational awareness. This is the potential specialization, utilizing trained senses to read a situation for danger, including knowing where the nearest exits are, evaluating the possibilities of an ambush, and if so, from where, and other tactical information. I believe that is all stuff that could be important to a pilot. So smarts, alertness is definitely one that we're going to be looking at, because then there's culture, recalling and understand information on people and groups, including their history, customs, art styles, cuisines, and other aspects of their society. Don't really need that in the cockpit. And science, understanding and application of the scientific method, including how hypotheses work and to calculate the logical path to a definitive answer. Not really something I'm going to need for that either. So we're going to put both of our smarts into alertness right here to put that up to D4, because I believe that will be very important in the cockpit. And now we come to the social ones. Oh wait, there's survival and technology as well. Is that plant poisonous? Are there predators in the area? Did the dreadnoks go this way in the swamp toward their secret lair? Basically, this is kind of like tracking, hunting, foraging, stuff that like somebody like Stalker, a ranger, could use. And technology, this skill is the understanding and application of innovation, engineering, applied mathematics, and technology. Don't really need that as well. Now let's skip on to social. That the top one we have right here is animal handling, caring for, training, riding, and otherwise manipulating animal life, are what this skill, prized among cowboys, canine units, veterinarians, and more, is used for. So that would be like mutt and law. Deception. Lying through direct falsehood, misdirection, body language, and other methods to conceal the truth are what the deception skill is all about. Now, as part of deception, there's also distraction, keeping others' attention on you rather than the world around them through misdirection. And I believe real-life pilots have something that's called like, what's it called? Target fixation, where like the pursuit fighter like just totally locks on to the target fighter and isn't paying attention to the rest of the world around them. I feel like distraction could be used for that. Like as a pilot, you could get somebody to basically just lock on to you and not pay attention to what else is going on, letting like maybe your wingman get behind them, or it's G.I. Joe, it's fiction, slamming them into the side of a canyon. Sorry about that, hard deck. So we would definitely be taking skill ranks in deception. Performance, applying any form of artistry, talent, or other creative outlet. Don't need that. Persuasion right here is another one. Convincing others to do or see things from your point of view through conversation and body language. This skill is prized by leaders, mediators, salesmen, and more. And diplomacy is one of the specializations. So that one is a big must-have as well. And then we have streetwise, walking the walk and talking the talk in urban environments. Not something I really need. So I think I'm going to take my 4 social points right here and just right off the bat take 2 in deception and then 2 in persuasion. So that right there is the start of our 4 essences and gets us into our skills as well, the base of our skills as well. So now that that is out of the way, we go to step 3, which is select influences. Now, influences here, your character's influences reveal who you are outside of your service to G.I. Joe. Your infantry soldier could have been a globe-trotting adventurer before they enlisted. Your commando might be a gearhead with a passion for technology that's grown since childhood. Now, each influence has bonuses, has perks to it, but they also have hang-ups. Just as influences enrich the character's backstory, so do hang-ups. Hang-ups are flaws your character develops as part of their backstory, such as misused opportunities, known weaknesses, and areas your character struggles in. So, you can have multiple influences, because if you only have one, that's kind of shallow and not very realistic. There are many influences that affect us. I was thinking of taking two. Any more than that, I figure like maybe two or three would be the max. If you did like four, then things might start to get a little muddled and you'd have probably some overlap at that point. But I do know what two influences I'm going to pick based off of what's in here and how I rolled up hard deck, not rolled up, but how I made hard deck back in the 80s. So some of the influences we have are adventurer. We also have artisan, which I love that the artisan has roadblock in his chef's hat. I think that's fantastic. Athlete, checkered past, much like how Stalker had. And then gearhead right here, because I'm going to be totally honest. I built my first car when I was 17. It was a car that my parents had that was kind of like broken down, rotting out. Built that back up and I was able to drive that. And I've done most of my car work my entire life, unless it's like something huge. So I'm very much into like cars, getting in there, working on the mechanics. Like when I was 6, I disassembled my bicycle and then put it back together just because I wanted to figure out how things worked. Learned very quickly to grease those bearings. So gearhead right here is going to be one of the influences that I have. Examples of this are dial tone, sci-fi, and toll booth. So influences right here. Oh, come on. We need to go out to that. The first one is going to be gearhead. And the hang up is you're fascinated with new technology, and when faced with it, you find it difficult to focus on anything else until you understand how it works. When dealing with new technology, you suffer a snag, which is basically a penalty to your skill check. You suffer a snag on all rolls until you gain at least a basic understanding of how it works. So my first hang up would be suffer a snag on new tech until how it works. So there we go. That's the first one. Now we have to scroll down to here, because this is the second page. We have our perks. We have character bonds. So let's go to the perk that we get with this. And that is, you're at home with the software and hardware of machines and quickly find shared footing with others devoted to how stuff works. You gain an edge on social skill tests when talking about technology with others. So gain edge, which is basically a bonus on social skill tests when talking about tech. And I'm going to put mechanics in there with others, or when helping others work on them. So there we go for that. Boom. And then the background bonds. There are 12 bonds for each influence. You can see there's a chart right here. Now you can pick them if you want, but you can also roll a D12 to randomize them, because all of it is on a 12-point chart or a 12-point table. So just for now, I'm going to roll and see what we come up with. Later, I might change this part and just pick them out, but I haven't read through all of these yet, so we're just going to let the die decide. And we rolled is that a 9 or 6? That is a 9, and we have, if it isn't measured and written down, it isn't real science or engineering. Okay. If it isn't measured or written down, it isn't, oops, real science or engineering. We need to fix that. What did I do? Too easy. Written down. It isn't real science or engineering. Okay. So that is our first one. How did I spell isn't wrong? Did I forget to put, yeah. All right, there we go. So that is our first, let's scroll back up here. That was our first influence, and there is another one that I want to do right here. We also have martial artist, nomad, professional, specialist, thrill seeker, and this one is the other one I'm going to take, small town roots, because I do come from a very small town. The town where I grew up was like 2 miles in diameter. Everybody knew everybody. You couldn't get away with anything because everybody knew your parents. So that is going to be my second influence. Examples of this from the Joe team are Bazooka and Gung Ho. Okay, so Gearhead and small town roots. All right. So hang up. Let's go to the hang up. All right. Sometimes your simple experiences show that you lack eloquence or understanding of the greater world around you. When you meet someone new who you don't share an influence with, you suffer a snag on your first social skill test with them. I could see that being a thing. I could definitely see that being a thing. Okay, so suffer snag on first social skill test with someone I don't share an influence with. Let's go back and fix that. So there we go. There are our hang-ups. So we go back down to here. Perks. The influence perk. Your wisdom guides you and your hard work pays off. Once per session, you may make a choice. No, once per session, when you make a choice, you may ask your GM which option is better for you. The GM must then answer truthfully which of the two is most beneficial to you, if that is at all possible to estimate. So, ask GM which road to take. And that's how I'm going to phrase that for now. I'll probably have to go back and fix that later. By the way, this PDF character sheet is also available on Renegade Games website. It's actually free. You can download it for free, and as you can see, it's already set up to be modified. So it's pretty cool that you can download this character sheet, type everything in, and then you can save it this way for your character. So let's see. Let's go back to, the bonds. I forgot about the bonds. Okay, so influence bonds. Once again, let's roll the d12 and we'll see what we get. And that is an 8. And others may call me stubborn, but it's my determination that's gotten me this far. I don't know what to do with that. So, actually, yes, I do. Others may call me stubborn, but it's my determination that's gotten me this far. All right, there we go. So that is everything we need for our influences. So what is next? That was influences was step 3. Now let's go to step 4, our origins. And the origins are basically what you did before you were a member of G.I. Joe. The obvious origins are the 3 armed forces that we have: Army, Air Force, and Navy. The Marines are written up in here as well, but they are covered under the Navy. We also have non-branch specific support origins like first responder origin, covert ops, CIA, intelligence. Well, no, intelligence right there would, I guess, be CIA, like for Scarlet. Non-military, we have civilian origin, engineer origin, scientist origin. So there's a lot to pick from here. And once again, I think like that Hawk's personnel files manual that's coming out, I think that's going to expand on the origins. So for hard deck here, the obvious one I'm going with is Air Force pilot origin. So we're going to go Air Force, pilot. Now, in case you're wondering, like, let's take the Air Force, for example. Yes, the obvious is the pilot, and that is there. But other origins include tactical air control, pararescue, special reconnaissance. Those are like halo jumpers. Airborne intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance operator, airframe designer, scientific applications. So among each origin, there are different ways you could go about doing this. Like even if we go to the Navy, the obvious one is sailor origin, but then there's Marine infantry, Marine aviator, Coast Guard heavy weather pilot, Navy helmsman, Coast Guard aviation survival technician, rescue swimmer, Navy SEAL, Navy cryptological technician, Navy nuclear electronics technician, Coast Guard oceanographer or meteorologist. So there is a lot of choices here to pick as your origin. Like I said though, I am going with the obvious Air Force pilot. So you get perks and bonuses from this as well. The first one that we have is Essence Score Increase. Increase your speed by +1. So the speed is going to go from 4 to 5, and that also affects this. So that goes to 5, and your evasion target is now 15. So evasion is like, I believe, is like your armor class. I think you can pick either toughness or evasion, whichever is the highest one, as like your personal AC. I think that's how it works. So his evasion being like a 15, anybody trying to shoot him when he's outside of his Sky Striker would have to beat a 15. I think that's how it works. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So then you have the origin skill. So with speed going up by 1, you should also get a new skill point. So your origin trained you in one of the following: defense, driving, initiative, or targeting. The skill training must be in the essence taken in your essence score increase. So the speed increased by 5. So our skill is going to go into, and I think I'm just going to go with driving and go boom. So now for driving, he has D6, and for when he's in the Sky Striker, he would roll D20 plus D2 plus D4 plus D6, taking the highest roll. So that's what we're going to go with. Starting health, you begin play with 2 health, so we would add that in, and that would be a total of 4 right here. Movement, your base ground movement is 35 feet, so 35 feet, and that got big. Okay. Languages, you begin play with 1 language in addition to your native languages, and gain 1 additional language for every 3 points of smarts you possess. So he only has 2 points of smarts, so he's going to have his native language and 1 additional language. His native language, of course, being English. And I remember giving Hard Deck a second language when I filled out that file card flyer, and for some reason I made it German. I remember it being German, and I think the logic behind giving him, making him fluent in German is because I had him stationed in Germany, because at the time the Berlin Wall was still up, and there was that like standoff between the two Berlins, and the Russians were on one side of the wall, and like me and the Air Force and the Americans were on the other side of the wall. So you see where that's going, right? So we're just German right there. So he is fluent in 2 languages to start. And that's, oh, and then we have an origin benefit of fly in the future. Fly in the future, embarking or disembarking a vehicle only takes 5 feet from your movement, not half your movement. So it only takes, so like he has a movement of 35, it would only take 5 feet of that movement skill to get into his Sky Striker and get it ready to go. Not half your movement. In addition, or additionally, you have been trained in evasive maneuvers. You may have the speed of your aerial vehicle, which forces all attacks against it to target its evasion defense instead of toughness. This lasts until the beginning of its next turn. So we are going to go down here to training and qualifications, and training is going to be, I'm just going to type in fly in the future. So there we have that. So that is everything for origins. Now we go to step 5, come back up here. We go to step 5, select a role. And this is basically your class. Okay. There are various roles in this. So let's find the roles. We have Commando, we have Infantry, we have Officer, Ranger, Renegade, Technician, and Vanguard. And the 2 I was looking at were Infantry and Officer. And let me tell you why Infantry. Let me get to that real fast. So Infantry right here. Any of the following are great examples of infantry characters. Bazooka, Artillerist. Gung-Ho, Artillerist. Clutch and Wild Bill are both mechanized infantry, and Doc is a medic. So mechanized infantry is a focus, which is kind of like a specialization, is a focus for the infantry class, or the infantry role. And I thought that would be really good because mechanized infantry has a lot of bonuses for helping out, piloting vehicles. Like, let's look at mechanized infantry right here. You have at home behind the wheel, increase your speed essence by 1 at first level, and gain, and again at 10th level, and the skills from that increase must go into driving or a specialization for that skill. Then you have swerve at 3rd level. While piloting a vehicle, you may choose not to set off a trap or hit other obstacles, such as civilians, mines, or debris. In a chase scene, you gain an edge as opposed to driving skill tests. So like a chase scene could also be like dogfight, like getting behind another fighter. But when I was a kid, me, hard deck, was a officer. And he was kind of like, he was to Keelhaul what Duke was to Hawk. And what I mean by that is, even though he was in the Air Force, so was Ace, he flew a Sky Striker, he was stationed on the flag, along with Ace, and Keelhaul was the one that commanded the flag. So Keelhaul was in overall command, but he was kind of like the quarterback on the field. Hard Deck was the leader in the air, much like how Duke was the leader on the ground for Hawk. So I decided to make him an officer. And the following are great examples of the officer characters: Psych Out, Battlefield Psychologist; General Hawk, Frontline Leader; Duke, Frontline Leader; and Keelhaul, Grand Master. So the role is going to be Officer. And at first level, you get things like Battle Command. As a natural leader, you give a tactical advantage to your fellow Joes. At first level, during the Yo-Jo battle cry, you may give an edge to one ally for their first attack. You also get Plan of Action. You don't just bring out the best in your allies, you make their best even better. At first level, as a move action, you can grant an ally within line of sight up 1 to a skill test, meaning up 1 die, to a skill test on their next turn. At fifth level, you can grant a total of up 2 to allies, either as up 1 to each of 2 allies or up 2 to 1 ally. At 9th level, the total increases to up 3. It increases again at 13th level to up 4, and one last time at 18th level to up 5. So that's a big deal right there. Also, and this is the one that's really cool, you get Rouse. Your mere presence inspires your allies. At first level, as a standard action during combat, you may attempt a difficulty 15 persuasion skill test to add a story point to the team's story point pool. And what are story points? I'm glad you asked that. Story points are the great equalizer. During gameplay, there will be moments of high-tension comedy, massive success, and tragic failure. Moments like these can be called upon to create or use what are known as story points. The team of player characters keeps track of a pool of these story points for themselves, starting each session with 1 story point per character. And what do these points do? Players spend story points from their pool to, based upon a number of factors. A skill test fumble, particularly action-packed. Oh, this is how they gain them. So, skill test fumbles, particularly action-packed or exciting scenes, ingenious ideas that result in moving the plot forward, particularly good role-playing, and how to spend them. This is what happens when you spend a story point. Reroll any dice result of a 1, roll a skill test as if specialized, add +5 to a defense before dice are rolled, or +1 to defense after dice are rolled, gain temporary access to a minor piece of equipment or tool useful in the scene, get a clue when stumped, and some perks, game effects, or special rules may require the expenditure of a story point. So I can just generate these story points in combat as long as I make that persuasion skill. And that is very cool. Now, in addition to being the role of the officer, we have different focus, which the 3 focus for the officer is battlefield psychologist. The battlefield psychologist understands how the mind works, which helps them get people to do what they want, both friend and foe. Then there is Grandmaster focus, that the battlefield is the Grandmaster's chessboard and the soldiers are game pieces. As every chess master knows, the fewer pieces lost, the stronger the odds of winning. This would be Keelhaul and Hawk. And then there's the one that I'm going to pick, Frontline Leader. Frontline leaders consider themselves on equal ground with the lives in their charge, protecting them as they would protect themselves. And at first level, the frontline leader gets Follow the Leader. Your speed essence increases by 1 at first level and again at 10th level. And the skill point from this improvement can be spent on any social skill. Additionally, if one of your teammates is ahead of you on the battlefield, at the beginning of your turn, you can sprint as a free action. So the focus is going to be Frontline Leader. Whoops. Come on, backspace. Frontline Leader. And his speed essence is going to increase by +1 again. So that puts me at 6, 6, and 16. And then we gain 1 skill point. That skill point is actually used over here in social. And I think we're going to go with a specialization of diplomacy. So there we go. That is our character build. Let's just go down here. We have perks that we are going to type in. So we have, or would that be training and qualifications? Nope, that's under perks. Okay, so we have Battle Commander, Plan of Action 1, Rouse, and Follow the Leader. There we go. Load all that in. Oh, let's put the period there. Okay. And now just for weapons, just for fun, I'm going to put in here the M1911 because that is his pistol. No armor. And there we go. That is hard deck. I am very excited to have him rolled up and finished and a modern version of him. I'm very excited to have that. This was very cool for me as well, getting to actually go through this and roll up a character in the game. So I'm very happy about that too. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed this. I wanted to try something different. Wanted to give you a look at what this game was in case you were on the fence about it or you were curious as to how the rules work. I know we didn't go through a whole game, but I hope this gave you some insight as to how this plays out. I think this is very cool. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get my my gaming crew together and at least do like one mission of this. That would be really cool to do. I would have to be the GM though, so I don't know if I would actually get to play him. So I'm just very happy that we have him, that I have him on paper now, so to speak. So that is what we have tonight. Remember to come back on Sunday for Sunday Show and Tell, and we will recap this past week, the ups and the downs. And then, oh yeah, also today went up week 3 of the Target Summer Geek Out. Card and link to that right above my head. And that will go on again next week. And also for next Friday, for Friday Night Game Night, will be the June version, or the June quest for our ongoing Hero Quest campaign. So we have a lot more coming down the line this week. Hello Joes, and welcome to the end of the video. It's good to see you here. While you're here, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. It's Yo-Jo June, and if you were thinking of becoming a member of the Steel Corps, now would be a time to do it. You can join for $1 a month through channel memberships or my Ko-fi page, and get access to members-only Discord, members-only live streams, eventually, and members-only monthly videos. This month for Yo-Jo June, we're taking a look at the 1/6 scale Fig Zero Dead Game Snake Eyes. If you're wondering what Dead Game is, just think of G.I. Joe, but what if Rob Liefeld? Remember to keep coming back all month while we check out everything G.I. Joe and G.I. Joe adjacent. And now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Yo Joe!